Planning to appear for UPSC CSE but confused about where to start? Look no further. Vision IAS Delhi presents the GS Foundation Course 2025, 2026 and 2027. Avail centralized access to learning with classroom and online resources. Study material that is expert researched and thoroughly analyzed basis the UPSC exam pattern. Personal and individualized guidance every step of the way to cater to your technical and specific needs. Explore the holistic learning modules we have designed for the UPSC CSE aspirant. Batch starts 20th December, 5 p.m. and 17th November, 9 a.m. Offline come live online classes. With the right ingredients, success is yours to have. Enroll today in the Vision IAS GS Foundation Course 2025, 2026 and 2027.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. So my name is Vishal. So can we have a huge round of applause for sir, first of all? Okay, so before starting the session, I would like to give a brief profiling detail regarding sir. So sir is Dr. L.C. Patnaik, sir. Sir is former chairman of Odisha Public Service Commission and the ex-president of Staff Selection Board of India. Sir had varied experience in defense, civil services, diplomacy, constitutional responsibility, and academics. Sir has a combat experience in Siachen Glacier, which is considered to be the world's highest and the very difficult battlefield, Kashmir, and Indo-China border. Sir has served as India's defense advisor in the Middle East with the concurrent responsibilities to monitor Iran's nuclear program and the conflict in Afghanistan. Sir had also served at United Nations and involved in the training program for the foreign defense forces. Sir has contributed immensely in the selection of civil services in the country and specifically in Odisha. As the longest serving chairman of UPSC, which is Odisha Public Service Commission, he had brought radical changes in the examination scheme as well as in the overall selection system. Sir has experience of more than 40,000 interviews, which is including the civil services, defense, as well as the corporate world. When we talk about Sir's academic qualification, it includes the PhD in International Strategy from Allahabad University and also Masters in Psychology, International Relations, Management, and Defense Science. Sir is also adjunct professor and advisor to many of the universities, which includes the Indian as well as the foreign universities. Apart from this, sir is also widely traveled, a keen golfer, and considered to be a guru in the civil services examination, and specifically when it comes to the personality development. So can we have a huge round of applause again for sir? And now sir will be discussing regarding the agenda of today's session, which will include the India's security-related concerns, and also the next topic will be G20. So, sir, please.
Good afternoon to everybody. I think the people in the rear can come in the front so that I can see you better. People at the rear chairs, please occupy the seats at the front. Keeping a class on a Saturday afternoon is not a good idea actually. Saturday afternoon you always want to go and see a movie or something of the nature. Today is Saturday, no? Yeah, isn't it? Or you don't have the luxury, you want to study and study here. When they told me, it's on Saturday afternoon, I said, my God, I said, I don't know whether I'll get 5 or 10 guys, but I thought I'm getting more guys here now. Okay. Nice, all of you are here. How many of you have otherwise attended some of my class in other fields? Oh, I seen you here last time, remember. Okay. Okay, good. So today we are in a different arena because I was told that the results of the written tests are likely to come very soon, and the institution requested me if I could actually give a little more insight into the issues of regional security dimensions and happen G20, because these are one of the majority of the questions which forms part of a general awareness as far as the interview is concerned. So idea is that we will have a very informal discussion on the topics of which you all are aware of it. It is not a new topic like I'm trying to teach you something about a very complex subject or something, but it actually all of you know about it, and all of you who are actually trying to sharpen your responses during the forthcoming interviews, considering that some of you are going to qualify in the written test, okay, which is there, or people who are not being under reckoning this time but possibly preparing yourself for any of the tests, is very important that the dynamics of the countries around us, okay, from a security angle and also from a political angle and the geostrategic angle, are understood in its nuts and bolts. Because any of this subject, will have a vast thing to be learnt about. And when we ask you in the interviews, my experience is that the responses many times are not to the point, which is because either you read too much, there are too many things which is there, and it doesn't come to you at that point of time to respond, or you have little vague knowledge as to what is it like, and you just try to harp upon those particular points per se, because there is a fear that if you don't respond, if you don't give answer to a particular question, you may not get the right amount of assessment. So this fear in the interview always keeps lurking in. So idea is that these regional dynamics in the Indo-Pacific and around, okay, or to be say what is our relationship with neighbors, are very important for us to know. Not firstly as a student, now definitely, second as a potential administrators if we get selected, and third, as a good administrator, unless the dynamics are actually understood, even if you join the IAS, you go to a state, okay, all the dynamics needs to be understood as entirety for you to become a good administrator, whether you join the IAS, foreign service definitely, police or any of the allied services per se. And this is where, we in the interview board start looking at you, not from essentially a factual response, let me tell you. Many times we take you to the level of analytics, because these are very general topics, okay. And unless you actually gone to the deep, it will be very difficult for you to answer questions out there which will be analytical in nature, sometimes the innovative in nature, sometimes we put you into a contingency situation, right? Whether you have the right amount of aptitude and attitude to know that particular dimension of relationship, okay. So my experience is that as long as your nuts and bolts are clear, what you call basics, okay, the fundamentals of any subject are clear, then you can handle any contingencies. You can handle any answers, okay. You can handle any amount of situation that is thrown to you. Because whether you are appearing for an interview or you are appearing for a mains, where the answers are required to be written, or appearing for a prelims, except for prelims where you get direct, but many a times the question pattern is such that we bring in a lot amount of analytics into the questions. And those people do well in such papers where they have actually made effort to go into the basics, the fundamentals of anything. So always keep it in mind, and this is a very evolving subject. What you have read today, 6 months later, a year later, things will change. Let's take relationship with China or Pakistan or something. There are certain fundamental things that is there. But relationship change today. Is a diplomatic world, is a very, very highly evolving world for that matter, where equations and national interests and other things do play a very major role. But at the interview, sometimes we do ask you of contemporary issues, but many a times we want to assess your fundamental issues. See, if there is something relation between India and Pakistan, what are the fundamental issues? Okay. So when you read or prepare, always make notes in two parts. Okay. Fundamental and contemporary. Fundamental ko upar kabhi you should always be absolutely be sure as to what are the fundamental issues in any country's relationship, whether it is India, Pakistan, India, China, anybody for that matter. Contemporary or dynamic or evolving are maybe what has happened in the last 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years or whatever it is. Okay. So this keeps changing. Fundamental issues, obviously, as far as China is concerned, we have the issues of the border dispute, we have the issues of the migrations, we have issues of the trying to encroach our land. As far as Pakistan is concerned, right from beginning we have had issues with them, we have fought 4 wars with them. Okay, there are issues of water, there are issues of migration, so many things are there, fundamental issues. Evolving issues are obviously they're getting pally with the Chinese, getting the corridor, CPEC corridor getting into Pakistan, their own economic crisis which is now, their own political crisis, Imran Khan getting imprisoned, what are the implications, so on. So they are all contemporary issues. Okay. So if you mix both of them, what will happen is, while answering your questions in the interviews, the memories which are very fresh, that will come up straight to me, and you tend to reply that first. And उसमें क्या होता है, आम तौर पर your information, the dots to connect informations in those responses are always little lacking, because it's so vast that you may not be doing everything on that particular thing. But कोई fundamental चीज़ है, water record ho gaya, Satluj treaty ho gaya, water commissions ho gaya, whatever it is there, okay, these are fundamental, won't change. If those things are actually readily available in a memory, the memory mind tends to retrieve them fast. And human psychology says that the moment you tend to give a good answer for which you feel happy, many times when you answer a question, you actually feel happy because you are retrieving the information from a memory in a very, very easy manner. You are not straining yourself. Okay, so that gives you a sense of happiness, and automatic that happiness enhances the level of confidence. Okay, so the technique to handle such questions is that anytime, even if you ask a contemporary question, you start with little fundamental thing which you know. Even if he says that, the interviewer says, no, we don't want history, sir, allow me to give you. If he says, no, you don't tell me, that's okay. But we do appreciate that whenever you are asked a particular question per se, you tell us a little background. It helps us put as a comfort. And that is both a trick as far as the students are concerned to develop your own confidence level, okay, and also to make the interview board members, a little more comfortable. हाँ, इसकी फंडा strong है यार, कोई problem नहीं है. कल अगर तुम्हारा contemporary में अगर कुछ, even if you miss out certain points of this thing, we still give you the benefit of doubt. Okay, possibly he was not fully aware of the thing because he is reading so much, he is in a very big tension or something. ठीक है ना? But ठीक है, doesn't matter. Let's excuse him from the point of view that he didn't know a latest issue. But इसका फंडा ठीक ठाक है, कोई problem नहीं है. So we tend to give you that little benefit of doubt as far as the fundamentals are concerned. Okay. So that's what, before I get into the subject matter per se, I thought let me explain to you because why these subjects of this nature are very important. And you're most welcome to us because not only theory, I've had on-ground experience of handling all these affairs, not only here but in the Middle East and many other places. So it's important that as long as you are getting to the issues which actually confronts a nation, especially all around us, okay, it's very important because not only now, ever since independence, the whole world was thinking that India as a nation will crumble. Post 47, not only common man, but people like Churchill, people like Roosevelt, and all those people at that time, they always thought that it's a question of time. India as a nation will not be able to survive because it's too diverse, with too much opinions and too much of social fabric differentiation. And that's the reason even the British Commander-in-Chief, mind you, who the head of the British Commander-in-Chief, did not leave India till 1951. Okay, the Air Force Chief only left in 1953 because they're all thinking that something will go wrong and they'll have to deploy the military to get back into the situation. But slowly and slowly, people realize, I think India as a nation is different than what the colonizers looked at, that okay, it doesn't have the adequate amount of strength, but the resilience and depth of India, the Indian citizen, the Indian people per se, was realized by the world with, immediately after independence and so on. So today we are seeing it, that we're the only nation in the world. Let me tell you, post-independence, within 25 years, we have to go into war almost 4 times. Okay, we are going to have one of the biggest internal, disturbance in terms of human migration with the millions of deaths which has taken place. And we are the only nation who came out of abject poverty in the 50s. Okay, and today the world is counting on us that is going to be one of the top 5 economies of the world. So when you look at India's journey per se, it's been a wonderful journey, let me tell you. And one may be critical, one may be anything. We still have people poor. Obviously, in a population of 1.4 billion people, even if we have 20% people poor, that's amounts to a huge Europe by itself. But I think, whatever said and done, people both in the politics, both in the executive, in the military, the judiciary, have all worked in the capacity to take this nation to some stage of acceptance in the world order today. That we shall discuss when we actually discuss G20 as to what catapulted into hosting that particular G20 and give us a lot of success per se. But first we will discuss the regional dynamics part of it. That there are various types of threats, internal, external, internal, and so and so. It's not, why I highlighted this as the first is that many people still think that external is one of the biggest threats. No, today internal becomes a very big threat. And it was said not now, but long time back by Chanakya, that this lurking state, it is the internal troubles, last line, is internal troubles like the fear from a lurking snake that are more serious than external trouble. The idea of highlighting this slide is that when you study India's dynamics, whether security or economics, it is as much important to understand internal dynamics as an external dynamics. Today we will concentrate on external dynamics, but you will see when you analyze countries as to how their relationship and status have evolved over a period of time, you'll usually find that it is more of a effect of the internal issues which is manifested into external issues than the other way around. So if we are strong from within, like if your human capacity, you are all appearing for an examination, let me tell you this. If you are able to build up an internal capacity so much, your outside challenges like facing an interview or appearing for an examinations will just be a cakewalk. But what we do is that we do two analysis and getting into paralysis of the external environment. And as a result, we fail to upgrade our own systems, our own inner being, and how exactly to fight this particular situation. India was also committing this mistake in the initial part of it. Like non-alignment karenge, world mein figure ho jayenge, falana ho jayenge, when our people are not having food to eat. We went in for a Panchsheel, we went for other things. We'll not discuss the political vision of that particular time, but the fact is that did not give us the dividends. So, next we move is that I'll take you to what a former Prime Minister said. I put him because he still is a revered person as far as things are concerned. Okay, an intellectual man. He also said this, the religious extremism, drug traffic. Our neighborhood provides the biggest infrastructure for perpetuating terrorism, religious extremism and drug trafficking the world over. So having got the internal, we are now having the issue of external. And mark his words, provide the biggest infrastructure. Now the moment somebody provides biggest infrastructure, that means the intention is very clear. That he wants to create trouble and kind of foment trouble in this country of ours. And it is not necessarily Pakistan. It includes adversary in the top, on the northern border. Okay, it includes adversaries even in Bangladesh, in Myanmar, all around. So if countries in the policy say that we are friendly, but start supporting infrastructure which are inimical to our security interests, this is where we need to understand. A lot of things will come on papers, negotiations, and etc., etc. But the question we have to always keep in mind is that then why the hell are you providing infrastructure? The Chinese have, the Pakis have, the Myanmaris have, the Bangladeshis have. Now Nepalese also started having. So there is a threat which is all around. I will skip this, I'll come to this towards the end. We have these challenges today, both internal and external. It is not only external. And all these are covered by security, economic, technological, social, cultural, diplomatic, but everything has become a very, very security concern. It is not only today the job of the defense forces or the security part of it. If you're joining the foreign service, you are handling this security challenge. If you are joining your administrative service, your socio-cultural, technical, etc. will come into play. Economic, if you are joining any other service like revenue service or anything for that matter. So everything has got, and everything is interconnected. So if you think that security is one domain, defense apna काम करेगा, foreign service apna काम करेगा, ये अपना काम करेगा, no. The challenges today are heavily interlinked. So when you get into administration, you will also face this particular issue that no challenge in the country, whether governance, administration, technology, etc., is a singular thing. And one of the reasons why we make you go through 9 audience papers, all your time you must be cursing, इतना क्या पढ़ना है यार, कल बड़ी नौकरी चला जाएगा तो उसमें बिल्कुल, and you all must be thinking कि जिस दिन मुझे नौकरी लग जाए उसको पूरा फेंक दूंगा कल, because it's a huge syllabus that you are given to you. There's a purpose why it is given to you. Because as future administrators, you need to know subjects, everything which has effect on governance or security dynamics or otherwise. And today's world, everything is interconnected, both technically, administratively, and otherwise. Everything is interconnected. In fact, this question of why are you reading so many subjects could possibly have come up in 60s or 50s when technology had not developed so much, everything were people were working in silos. But the issue of overall knowledge and a broad-based knowledge was realized not now but nearly 100 years back, or I will take a little more, when the Britishers started their own syllabus in UK for their UK civil services, which we actually borrowed in 1935 when you brought in this thing. They also had a very large encompassing number of subjects, and that was of course different, literature, this, that and so, sociology, arts, music. Those are the syllabus. When you read the syllabus of the UK civil service, you will go mad. They have now of course truncated. When we brought in our own syllabus in 1935, okay, we also brought in a large amount of subjects and people studied. We have continued with that particular thing. In between, the second Administrative Reforms Commission did decide to possibly bring down the number of subjects, but then we held back, saying that no, it has got its own benefit. Now we find that reading multiple subjects, without reading multiple subjects, without getting actually linked up to so many subjects, okay, you cannot become good administrators. Hence, you have no option. You have no option then to study. सारे पढ़ना पड़ेगा. ये नहीं कि जैसे कि मेरा ग्रेजुएशन में हिस्ट्री था, ज्योग्राफी था, वो फलाना कर ले, वो कर ले. No. Today you got to study a large number of subjects. Okay. Let's have the security scan. Okay. I will cover it, in this following manner. We'll talk about the other topics out here. I will talk all countries in particular, but towards the end, I will devote more time to Pakistan and China. Okay, because that's very important to you. Okay. This is our geographic salience. You see, you are aware of it, but just to put you across, a lot of people are either studying geography or have got option for geography. There's nothing that I can tell you. But all I can just tell you is that of late, this red brim, 7,600 kilometers of coastline and the ocean per se, has become one of our biggest challenges. Just keep that in mind. We'll come to this thing. I'm not trying to get into maritime security from the beginning itself. Earlier, if I was to talk to you about 10 years, 15 years back, I wouldn't have put this red line here. And another blue line that shows 1,300 kilometers are island territories called Andaman and Nicobar Island. Many times we are not talking about this because we didn't have the capacity, let me tell you. We didn't have that navy, we didn't have that blue ocean capability to talk about. It is only in theory. As long as we are able to secure our borders, okay, is good enough. Today we are talking because our capacity is increased, new threats are emerging, etc. And we have a huge land border with China. We have another huge border with Pakistan, which we call up from Jammu, Rajouri onwards, we call it a LOC, line of control. And with China, we call it as what? LSC, line of actual control. Is because the borders have still not been defined and not been converted to a international border. In nutshell, they are disputed. In nutshell, they are disputed. And another implications of not having a defined international border is that in a line of control, though they are disputed, each of the party can grab another person's land by crossing, and that will not be international violation. You getting my point? If you do that in international border, supposing Rajasthan sector, this is an international violation. You can raise the issue to any level, and which will be taken as an act of war. But if you do it in Kashmir, from, to be precise, from Akhnur, do you know a place called Akhnur in Jammu and Kashmir? Okay, and it's somewhere here, and keep going up all along this thing. And if you find a piece of land which is not occupied on the Pakistani side, you go and grab it. This is not a violation. The same thing can happen to your side also. Even they can do it. So this game keeps playing. The only difference is that at the LSC, line of actual control, where the Pakistan is involved, we can use weapons, we can use fire. Now, of course, there's a ceasefire. Where we're having LSC with the Chinese, under an agreement that is existing with Chinese, we don't open fire. We don't open fire. That is why in the video graphs you must have seen any brawl with the Chinese. हमारे सरदार लोग उसको पिट को पीछे भगा रहे हैं, ठीक है ना? वो वहाँ से धक्का मार रहा है, वो यहाँ से धक्का मार रहा है. Somebody using sticks, somebody using bamboo, somebody using club sticks and so and so. Okay, at least the situation is not aggravated to a situation where you're supposed to open fire. But along the Pakistan border, you can open fire. I commanded one of the sensitive brigades on the line of control. And the day I actually took over, the Pakis greeted me by firing some 8 to 10 rounds of fire which just fell about 200 to 300 meters away from my bunker. Normal peace time is nothing, not war time. So I asked my staff officer, is it a greetings from them? Well, yes, sir, this is a greeting, and they know that you are coming. And they know your name also. Achha, very nice. How come? They only got their background and whatever it is. So I said, what action do you take now? So उनको पर एक रिटर्न दिवाली. How many? I said, उन्होंने 10 मारा, हमने 20 मारेंगे. Okay, fire back but no casualties. Okay, so it was return fire which went off. Okay, they also fired in such a manner that we don't have casualties. There are places they know where the troops are not there. Okay, so this you can say Diwali fire because we don't intend to bring down casualties. But you dare not do this in across the Chinese border because we have an agreement there not to open fire. You getting the difference? You dare not do this in the Rajasthan border or the Gujarat border. Okay. In the international border. Or no country can dare to do this where there is the international border. This is a very unique situation we have in our country. And that is why you find, you keep reading newspapers and this so and so. There's infiltration, there's a clash, there's a casualties and so on. So casualty take place both the sides. You only hear our side. It takes place both the sides. So we are living in a situation which is very, very unique in this world. Let me tell you this. And now the new dimension coming that we are hearing that these, we'll discuss about the Chinese threat, what they call it, string of pearls and whatever it is, whatnot. Okay. On this, we're talking string of pearls for last so many years. But actually speaking today, this has nooses tightened. They already put a ship off the coast of Sri Lanka, the Chinese, okay, which is carrying out a deep surveillance of what is happening in India. They already gone into a contract to build one of the biggest deep sea ports in Hambantota in Sri Lanka. We'll come to Chinese later. Just giving you an example of why I flashed this. The so-called beautiful Bharat Mata of geography, okay, is actually having huge security concerns. No country in the world, I repeat, no country in the world has such a large land border. If you ever see these borders of China, Pakistan and so, like as they told you in my introduction, that Siachen Glacier, as you're sitting here, the temperature is minus 60, 70 degrees. Night it goes to minus 100 degrees. No country in the world has deployed the troops in such conditions. At a huge cost, let me tell you. Today we spend nearly 11 crores a day. 11 crores a day to maintain the Siachen brigade. With no choice. Can we really afford? Okay. So these are the dynamics of our geography, per se. Huge mountains, rivers. If you go to the Chinese border, you will find snow-clad cliffs. And on the snow-clad cliffs, and right on the top, you will see an army post where there will be just about 8 to 10 chaps. We have no choice. It is not that we are happy to do that. An army does it as very serious casualty to themselves and huge logistical challenges. But if you don't do, because these are disputed, they'll come and sit down. They'll come slightly, they'll come dhire, then you'll find them, Chinese, you'll find them in Brahmaputra. He says, in any case, they've been claiming Arunachal, to hamara pura hi hai. Yes or no? You must have read, na? Arunachal, 5 fingers came in Galwan, but I'm talking about Arunachal Pradesh. Enter whole Arunachal. यहाँ तक कि हमारे बंदे अरुणाचल वाले जो वहाँ पर जाते हैं उनको कौन सी वीज़ा देते हैं? Staple visa. They started changing names. Geographical. We'll talk about this cartological invasion little later. Indo-Mac matrix, just to show you that there are close borders, I will say what is it that actually we have been belligerent neighbors. We are not good neighbors. We have been belligerent neighbors. You understand the word belligerence? Who always keeps pricking you. Okay. Fought 4 wars. Proxy war in J&K. Mark this word. It is not an insurgency, somebody is a bit. It is a proxy war. What do you understand by the meaning proxy, madam? proxy, whatever it is, but the word is war. Okay, what is war? So somebody is creating a war in Jammu and Kashmir. It took us so much of time to realize this word was accepted by the government of India. The whole thing started in Kashmir in summer 1989, and I recollect the date of July 89 because I was happened to be on that day in Srinagar when the first shots got fired in 89. It took almost a decade for government of India to accept that it's a proxy war. So there's a proxy war, and seething under them is कि हम 71 की लड़ाई की जो है हम तो जरूर रिवेंज लेंगे. That generation is gone. All those people who suffered in 71. But then the sentiments and the emotions that India imprisoned 1 lakh prisoners of ours, cut our country to half, made it Bangladesh in 71, that thing is moving from generation to generation. And last but not least is that always they've been trying to align either with the United States firstly or with Chinese or something. The whole politics has been moving on these lines. In nutshell, it's been a belligerent state per se. When you come to the Chinese issue, we'll discuss further, but just to tell you that the regional encirclement is not now, it started long time back. And as good geopolitical analysts, okay, we just decided to ignore this issue. Now, why encirclement from the beginning? Because those days Himalayan was very, very difficult to cross. Tibet was still not developed as far as the Chinese are concerned. Their economy had also not developed. So the only way they thought they could be able to handle Indian issues are that you encircle it. Encircle is in the sense, it's not that, har jagah pe jahaz laga do, ships laga do, but wherever there are land masses, any countries, start dominating those countries, automatically you will start getting influenced. How many of you read today's Times of India editorial? Anybody got a chance to read today's Times of India? Okay. If you read, there's a wonderful article by Vijay Gokhale, by the former Foreign Secretary. He writes about an area called Kra. Kra, Isthmus Kra. Yes, you read it. Isthmus of Kra. And this is something, a 40-kilometer isthmus in Thailand. If that becomes successful and goes into the Chinese hand, the Chinese will have huge dominance and with potential security effect in not in Indian Ocean but the Bay of Bengal, which is so far our underbelly. So there are a lot of moves on this particular issue. Chinese arms export to the region is well known. Okay, cartographic aggression, Sandeli. You understand cartographic? On the maps. I've been part of a couple of negotiations on this thing, on the flag meeting. They will always come out with some map which is about 200 years or 300 years old with stamps and everything that this is the original Karkar. And unfortunately, we don't have maps because most of our maps were not made by those days because we were divided into small states. India's union never made this. The Britishers did make some maps, which the Chinese refused to accept. He says, no, these maps were made by India when they were a colony. Hence, we will not accept the maps. But we don't have the maps. We karoge kya? So there is a perpetual cartographic aggression to it, and India is perceived as a competitor. I have not used the word enemy. I have not used the word as adversary so far. Because in your discussions also, when you are perceiving China, okay, you can use the word adversary. I have seen many candidates in the interview board tend to use word like enemy. Okay, don't use words like China as an enemy or Pakistan is enemy. That is good to colloquial, but when you are talking in an interview, you should use the correct words. They are adversaries. Countries which don't, because we can't call enemy Chinese enemy, because with whom we have got one of the largest trades. Do you make trade with it? You normally don't trade with an enemy. Yes, Pakistan to some extent, we don't trade, but there are a lot of other types of trade which are going on. We still not classified them as enemy per se. There may be terms which be used by the military, but in political circles or in diplomatic circles, they are all adversaries. So be very careful, and you might come across some questions that why aren't you classifying Pakistan as an enemy or China as an enemy when they're doing all inimical actions? So your answers should be in absolute form that they're not enemy because we still have diplomatic relationship with them, we still have economic relationship with them, we still have cultural relationship with them. We are not cut out this thing. There might be certain issues which are taking place on the borders or on the issue of interpretation of the border, but we have not totally cut off the relationship that we call them as enemy. Look at all relationship with the countries in a very, very positive manner. Just because the print media tends to, for the issue of sensitivity, tends to give a different color to various relationship, don't go by that. Make your own judgment that इस country के साथ मेरा क्या relationship है. Okay. We have unresolved LAC problems. It's a festering problem. Cyber and space warfare is coming in a very big way as far as Chinese are concerned. And the hint of Chinese interference in our cyber. Did you hear some time back a huge power shutdown in northern India? You heard of it? What, 15 years back? 12 years back to be precise. There was a huge power shutdown in Maharashtra. It's all been traced to the Chinese way of interfering in our capabilities. They are trying to enter the IT domain, the cyber domain, etc. Chota mota, your TikTok, this, that, social media, that's a different issue. Okay, but they already infiltrated, and that is why we have created something called a cyber command now, cyber and space command, to counter these issues. So it's a big threat as far as things are concerned. What has happened in last about 30 years is that in Tibet, they have substantially enhanced their military capability. It's called TAR. Okay. And we actually saw, once they built up the capability, the application of that particular military threat we saw in Doklam and recently Ladakh in 2020. So, when people were talking that why did the Russians attack Ukraine per se? Now, you can't have a string of NATO countries all around, supported by the Americans and supported by the West. You encircle Russia and you say, no, we don't have any intentions. We're just circling. What happens if Ukraine tomorrow becomes a NATO country? Kya farak padta hai hame? I mean, these are the Americans' way of talking. We are not going to attack. But no. Russia has had legitimate security concerns. After launching a war is not a decision which is just taken, offhand. Whether it is Putin or it is otherwise so and so, the moment you launch a war, there is huge strain on human resource, there is a huge strain on equipment, economy per se. Hence, when you look at things that we neglected this issue of military, this thing in Tibet. And result, Doklam in 2017 and Ladakh in 2020. We don't know what will happen next. Okay. Since my summation is that China is to be factored as a long-term threat. What? China is to be factored as a long-term threat. I will deal little more specifically also with China a little later. Okay. But China and Pakistan are not the only two countries around us for which we are concerning. We have a huge, many other countries. Let's see how do they impact on our security concerns. We'll start from A, Afghanistan. All of us know our relationship with Afghanistan per se, yes or no? But somehow or the other, we have historical relationship with Afghanistan, a cultural relation with Afghanistan. It goes back to 2,500 years where things are concerned. Okay. And going back those days, even in the Mahabharata times, our dominion used to be there. But post-Islamization, ever since the Muslim Rule came, the dynamics of Afghanistan has changed and it has become a pariah. But because of a geopolitical situation or position on the ground, everybody wanted, firstly UK, when it was a power, wanted to go there. Then came the Russians, and then came the Americans in different forms or the other. So time and again, the local Afghans, for no fault of theirs, because they were in a good geopolitical situation, came under huge amount of attack from the various powers that is there. So if we look back to the days from the American withdrawal, which happened recently, to the days when initially the Anglo-Afghan war, it's been more than 100 years that the simple people of Afghanistan have been put into a war and a war-like situation. So militant बनेंगे नहीं बनेंगे क्या होगा? Why I am telling this, that at this powerful moment when I asked about Afghanistan, वो तो सर militant है, वो Taliban है, they don't allow the women to work, they have very stringent rules and so on. So okay, but look back, take a little time to look back the history. Always, they were people like same as us, same origin per se. Same thing when people ask you why Indians have gone into sati. It was a protective measure. Because any invader who came, not only invaded us, but they took our girls from here, and that they took it as a war booty. And hence, the people at that time had no other option than to protect this thing. It was a very bad form to protect them because there's no choice. There's just no choice. Similarly, it has become a center of terrorism in the world. It becomes a potential center of terrorism in the world. It's another subject as to why they become a potential center. But the fact is that once the Taliban government come up, for some reasons we have not gone into recognizing the Taliban government. And last slide says that, that the Afghan embassy has recently been closed from Delhi. See the change, a pattern. Afghanistan, which is the most trusted country. I have traveled extensively in Afghanistan. Very good people, very good relationships. Today, this country has closed its embassy, snapping down nearly more than 1,000 years of our relationship, and has become a potential center of terrorism. And despite the fact that we spent so much of money in Afghanistan. We built up a parliament. We built up which dam? Salma Dam. Or kya? Eh? Yes, there is a highway we built from Delaram to Jaranj. You are aware, I am very happy. Okay, because I was in charge of that project. Okay, Delaram to Jaranj, right? And a host of other things. In fact, one day I was captured by the Taliban. I must share this also with you. I was in a civil dress in a Tata Fortuner. They thought I was a Pakistani. But what saved me at that time was what 20 cassettes of Hindi cinema, जो हमारे गाड़ी में हमेशा मैं रखता था. Though my AK-47 is always close, something happened, I would have fired. But then there was aggressive lot. You see, when you handle such people in the adverse environments, you really don't know what hits you. But let me try this. So when I did this and I knew some Farsi and I spoke to them, they were convinced कि broken Farsi बोल रहा है तो फलाना ये हिंदुस्तानी होगा और ये हिंदुस्तानी कैसेट कौन देगा? And you heard of a rum called Old Monk rum? Eh? You heard of it? वो luckily मेरे पास 5-6 वहाँ पर पड़े थे because we normally gift it to people. उसको हमने उठा के उसको पकड़ा दिया. वो बड़े खुश हो गए. Otherwise I wouldn't have been standing here. I would have been under the diplomatic bargain exchange or something. I was a diplomat. Only thing that I went as a diplomat. Okay. So I had that immunity. That's open. I mean, that's for this thing. Otherwise, the amount of drinking that takes place in this country is enormous. Okay. On ground. गुजरात में नहीं होता है कि ड्रिंक, बिहार में लोग बताओ, ठीक है ना? This is, they make some official policy because they have followed a Islamic, what you call republic. Okay, it's an official designation. So they have to abide by certain rules and rules. But it's open as far as things are concerned. I have served in 8-9 countries of yours, so there's no problem. Okay. So this is where Afghanistan. Now, what are the questions that you might feel that you'll get in Afghanistan? We'll kill this country one by one here. Okay. What is the question that you feel that you might get in Afghanistan? We'll try to respond and we'll kill this point. Because coming back again, you will not be able to recollect your memory. Yes or no? Should I go this way or you want to ask question at the end? Country-wise? Okay, since we started with Afghanistan, let's clear Afghanistan. This slide is here. You can ask any questions.
Earlier we
Tell
had
your
the-
name, please, bete.
I'm Vaibhav. The earlier policy was Afghan-led, Afghan-owned government. We'll
Okay.
deal with, diplomatically we'll deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
So should we move towards, what should be our policy about how diplomatically we should deal with Taliban?
You see, there's something called pragmatism in diplomacy. I personally feel that we have to reach out to Taliban in whatever form it is, because in the past we had interacted with Taliban government. Okay. Now post withdrawal, we made it a principle that we will not accept Taliban form of government. Now, if you have to answer this question, obviously you will have to be a little pro-government. That's why I'm trying to give you that particular thing. Why we're not going in for that? We possibly feel that they are not aligning themselves with large amount of human rights issues which are of concern to us. Okay, especially women rights, children rights, and so on. So, the second thing is that Taliban is deeply entrenched with Pakistanis. And we have been telling that this link has to be broken because in the past, because of this particular link, we had large amount of terrorists which came to Kashmir. I myself must have killed 2-3 of them. Okay. Many people. And those days Taliban not only sent their own people, but they picked up people from Africa as mercenaries. We used to find in Kashmir, I operated in Kashmir such a long time, that we used to find people, Negroes, all Africans, कोई जेल में है, कोई फलाना है, उनको उठा उठा कर जो है ना अफगानिस्तान लाते हैं, उनको ट्रेन करते हैं, IAS है उसको पकड़ता है, फिर हम अंदर घुसाते हैं. We said, please stop this. If you are friendly to Afghanistan, friendly to India, you can't do this link with Pakistan. You are his friend, say for instance, or he is someone angry with him, तुम उसको दोस्ती करेगा तो तुमको पिटेगा नहीं वो. Simple thing, I'm just giving a very simple example. We say that you say you are a friend to us, but you are supporting Pakistan, you are sending infiltration to us, you are sending militants to us, as far as things are concerned. वो तुम्हारे सारे अफगानिस्तान है, हमारा पूरा उनको दिया कहानी कि देखो ये सारे अफगान के नेशनल्स हैं. We had good relationship with the previous government. So we said that since terrorism is our main concern, unless you deal link with Pakistan, it will be very difficult for you to recognize. Pakistan उनको होने नहीं देता है, because the Taliban government is basically funded and protected by the ISI, by the Pakistan army. So this is the dynamic of it. So if you ask as a policy, we must actually overreach. If you ask a recommendation, say tomorrow what will be this thing, you should be pragmatic in the sense that in diplomacy there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies. ठीक है, that's an ideology issue. Similarly, there are so much ideology issues. Do you think China का सब ideology नहीं है? China is also an ideology issue. Pakistan is also an ideology issue. There's a religious ideology, there's a political ideology. So we must, because in a larger interest, otherwise the vacuum that is being created in that part of the world, Iran is almost being lost out. The Chinese have signed a $300 billion deal for 10 years with Iranians. Okay, Pakistan, they are making deep entry into Afghanistan. So our neighbors and extended neighbors are not going to win a hand. So unless we change our policies and pragmatism, okay, it will be very difficult for us to actually maintain continuity in that part of the world. Because in those countries, we have huge popular support. किसी में चले जाओ, sir, they don't like Pakistanis, let me tell you. No Afghan or Iranian ever like Pakistanis. They like Indians quite a lot. So the human touch, the human civilization, we need to now this thing. I fail to understand why we have not acted very strongly to prevent the Afghan embassy from closing down. That's something which you need to really understand. There could be many reasons, many other reasons I don't know. Okay, but this we have to consider this. Okay. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Ipsit, I have attended a previous class of yours as well. So, sir, my question was that Taliban has recently been inviting India to come back and complete their older projects. And we are already in the process of giving them a lot of food aid. So, should we engage with them further on the old projects? Because we are already going in that direction of pragmatism. That may help deepen our ties.
It makes sense for us to keep a footprint by, through infrastructure. See, one of the ways which you keep footprint in another country is through infrastructure. That's what the whole concept of Chinese, concept is. So we have already completed many projects. There are still projects under this thing. We have projects under the UN, which are being done out there. So we must continue on this project. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, I'm Saurav Singh. Sir, you said that Pakistan has been funding Taliban for a very long time. But sir, we have seen increasing tension between Pakistan and Taliban at Pashtun border. Sir, like recent migration of many Afghanis from Pakistan to Afghanistan. So sir, what is your take on it?
Actually, there are too many factions in Taliban. Okay. When initially Taliban started, who funded it? It was Pakistan to the US. They only created this once the Russians came in. Okay, it was created then. So the ISI funding has been right from the beginning itself. But when the Americans started coming, they wanted to create a divide between the existing Talibans. Those Talibans which are being supported by Pakistan continue to remain. Talibans which remain under the patronage of Americans they were a different lot. So there's a division in Pakistan. In fact, there are 3-4 groups in Taliban itself. But post-withdrawal of Americans, what this pro-Pakistani Talibans did was they started targeting these guys who were being supported by the Americans. Most of them left the country, okay, because the families were tortured, other people were tortured. Okay, there's a wonderful movie which has come out because of this. You must have a look, see it. So today, the Taliban which is in power is basically funded by the Pakistanis. Okay. Right. Ask questions which could be benefit to all. ठीक है ना? Because we are trying to get yourself your bilateral relations thing ready.
Thank you. So this is Samresh Mahapatra. For the question being that the Taliban story in Afghanistan is pretty similar to what happened with the Bangladeshi story, where a faction comes out and they fight the government, they change the government, and then they take the rule. A similar story of what happened in Bangladesh 1971 and here in the Taliban story per se. So there we took them, the Mukti Bahini or the others, as a rebel force, and we held them. And here we consider Taliban as a terrorist force. The difference between rebel and terrorist is a pretty thin line, and it's only ideology who defines it. It's only a definition thing which goes on. If I consider something as rebel, and
so you support a we should have be more pragmatic with Taliban. Is that correct?
So somewhere on those lines.
But for the point of examination, I'll advise you don't get into this thing of Mukti Bahini and this and that. Okay, because you will not get questions on these lines. I'm trying to guide you for the questions that is going to come up. Otherwise, the huge topic by themselves, we might get into a different type of discussion, right? This sort of a comparison, I can tell you exactly what is the difference of ideologies, but it will be at the cost of other people. Getting my point? Okay. Because let's focus on those areas where a contemporary, where you are likely to get a question, either in the interview or in the written test. Okay, keep that point in mind. Why I did not? Because it's a good question. It's a good question, and just to cut this thing is that Mukti Bahini was a different concept in which you wanted to topple a government which is genocidal in nature. Okay, the amount of genocide that has been created as far as things are concerned, the people invited us as far as things are concerned. Taliban was never invited by people. It was forced upon people. Okay, though ideologies can be debated as far as things are concerned, but on the mere fact that we did same thing, and if somebody else does thing, हम उसको क्यों ऐसा मना कर रहे हैं, ठीक है ना? That was 71. Okay, this is 23. Kissinger, though died at 100, he was actually made responsible for killings in Vietnam and so on so. Okay, but later policy when it changed and made China this thing, people revered him. This सारे dynamicism होता है diplomacy के अंदर, ठीक है ना? Okay. Yeah.
So Himanshu Sharma. So my question is, shouldn't India rather maintain a position of ambiguity in this case, because we have nurtured a lot of Afghani diplomats in our institutes for maybe like 50 years since the time of the Shah. So wouldn't it be better if we talk to the Taliban and all the other factions that are in Afghanistan? Because see, there are other threats that are emerging. Let's just say ISIS is emerging in Taliban as a counter to, in Afghanistan as a counter to Taliban. So we actually do not even know who will be the next ruler in the next even 5 days.
Okay, got a question.
5 days.
Okay, what is happening is, as I look at it, it is a little diplomatic action taken by the Afghan government so as to compel us to go and accept the Talibans. Okay, because what will be the next step now? If they have taken out their embassy, we will have to pull our embassy. In diplomacy, there is something called reciprocity, right? So next step is we'll have to pull out, or at least pull out our ambassador or the high commissioner there and pull back. So there will be thaw in relationship. It is basically, as I look at its temporary nature, and we also have very pragmatist diplomats and foreign ministry diplomats. I think um, there will be some sort of a recognition that we will extend towards this particular Taliban in times to come. Because if you continue this policy for long, it will be at our disadvantage only. Because you are creating more and more space in that country for other people to fill the vacuums. Already, you see, Chinese were never there. And they have started in a big manner. The Russians were never there before. Russians were there, but they vacated and all. The Kazakhs are there. The Azeris are there. They are all moving in a big way to fill the gaps in that area. So we must make a move and find ways. And there is no way that we should be able to leave Afghan out of our hold. If we have to look at it as a policy, we must have a pragmatic policy towards Afghanistan. Okay.
So we should just accept Taliban because that is the reality and start working with it without.
Yes. That's what you should follow. Okay. Chalo, we'll go to next. We'll go by country. Major questions reserved next. Okay. We'll go to the next country, and next country is what? As I look at it, Sri Lanka. Okay. Now, you know the history of relationship with Sri Lanka, isn't it? Without looking at this slide, you know, the idea is that Sri Lanka got independent during the same time, part of the British colony and so on and so forth. But some or the other, despite all that good relationship of Rama, Hanuman and all those things which is there with the Indian subcontinent, okay, this little tiny island has not been as per our desire. The problem that actually most important is the Tamil problem. I put the positive thing first because we give them a $4 billion assistance now, okay, when they get into economic crisis. That's a very major thing that we have. So India has forgotten everything in the past. It's done a very strong, pragmatic and bold initiative by becoming a creditor, by is given that much amount of assistance of up to $4 billion when they went into a thick economic crisis. And gave them so much of guarantees also that the IMF could also provide them certain amount of loan. We bailed them out. But prior to that, the relationship that actually gone bad is that in 87, when the Sri Lanka gave limited autonomies to the Tamils, okay, it followed by an Indian intervention in Sri Lanka, wherein we had to send the Indian peacekeeping force in 88-89. So just see that relationship. A group of community, minority community, that is Tamils, were given limited autonomy. Then they went into a conflict, etc. Then the LTT started and so on, and then we were forced to send Indian army out there. And that was something which, in retrospect, I would suggest that it could have been handled better. So a good relationship that existed with Sri Lanka broke with our intervention in the IPKF, but we thought that possibly we will gain their sympathy by, of the then Sinhala government in Sri Lanka by crushing the Tamils. The Tamil rebellions, not the Tamil, the militants of Tamil, the Prabhakaran party. While few months back, before the IPKF went, we are working in close coordination with Prabhakaran. In fact, Prabhakaran used to be sheltered in one of our army units called 1 Para Forces prior to we went against him. So here the dynamics keep changing. You know what I was telling you, the same LTT, okay, जिसको हम नर्चर कर रहे थे पहले थे, okay, you go against the Sinhalese and so and so. We had to change colors and have to go fight against them. And sufferings, large amount of casualties took place on both sides. A relationship went very sour in late 80s. Then the others, like a question of vacuum, started. The moment our influence in Sri Lanka started coming down because of this, the United States started moving in, the Chinese started moving in, because everybody looks for opportunities in diplomatic world. So one mistake at the governmental level, okay, cost us that this country went away from our hand. Thank God that economic crisis has come now. Thank God we gave them $4 billion. वो हमारे रास्ते पे आ रहा है. Even then, every country keeps playing its own game, you know. So, but we told them that, okay, if you want to give a port to Chinese and Hambantota, you also please give us a port next to it. I think Adani is trying to make a port there. Okay, so all I want to say is that it went to an alliance with China sometime in early 90s. That time it was not that high because China was not that a powerful economy those days, but the Americans had come in and Americans wanted a base in Sri Lanka. We put a lot of pressure at that point of time, so they gave only a facility and not a base, military base. There's a difference between military base and a facility. Facility is you come, refuel and then go back. Base, you are allowed to put troops there. And that was the time, you know, they had no choice. Then the Americans went to a place called Diego Garcia. Okay, and for that the Sri Lankan people helped them initially. So we didn't object too much. But our main concern in the Indian Ocean is Sri Lanka. When you're today talking of maritime threat as a security, big security threat, because there is not a single ship which doesn't dock in, which comes from Africa and goes to the Malacca Straits and this thing. They all dock in there, that's a refueling point, that's a staging point, and should any adversary, whether Pakistan or China, want to actually open up a new front, that is a southern front, where our army deployment is thin, you get a wonderful staging ground like Sri Lanka. लड़ाई करने के लिए तुमको कुछ चाहिए ना, बेस चाहिए ना, ऐसे तो हवा में तो नहीं जा पाओगे. Yes or no? So tomorrow where the Chinese want to attack us from the south, where we are thin, कल चाइना में आ जाएंगे, sorry, चेन्नई के अंदर आ जाएंगे, if there is an attack which takes place from this thing, how many are from south? Anybody from south? Anybody from Chennai side, south? कोई नहीं है? Okay. Don't think that there won't be an attack from Chennai, from southern side. Okay, the Sri Lanka provides a tremendous amount of advantage to any adversary. And in this world of politics, as America is a friend of mine, the same America can become an adversary to us also. Okay, so that is why Sri Lanka has become very important to us. There was US-Sri Lanka logistic agreement way back in the 90s, early 90s. Okay. And development of Hambantota by the Chinese naval base. So these are the salient points. Other than that, of course, we have good trade relationship with coffee, tea, tourism, and this and that takes place as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. But I basically put those points which are related from the security point of view. Why it is important? You might say कि सर क्या श्रीलंका से लेना देना हमें, इतना छोटा सा तो है, राम जाकर अटैक कर लिया तो हम भी अटैक कर लेंगे जाकर, ठीक है ना? But no, in the Indian Ocean today, if at all we require some strong this thing, because we don't have any other base except इस तरफ अपना जो अंडमान निकोबार है, and if you go this side, which is a small country, Maldives, वो भी अपना हाथ से जा रहा है. The Chinese have started coming there also. So we don't have any other thing. If you want to reach out to people say, sir, क्यों reach out करना है? कोई ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. अपने खुश रहो यहाँ पर. No. In warfare, the more you move ahead and create a larger sovereign defensive capability, you are more secure. That's a different subject of warfare. Okay. This is, again, all I want to tell you is that with Sri Lanka we had a very good relationship. Came something called an ethnic city called Tamils, and situation went bad. It's not that the problem is still solved. We still have problems of Tamils in India, Tamil insurgents also operating, sheltered by Tamil Nadu. You know, those days being Tamil Nadu government also came under fire. There is then the question of human rights came in. Okay, war casualties came in when the Sri Lanka army crushed the LTTE. And all this while, we remain onlookers as far as things are concerned, and slowly it slipped away to other powers, America and China. And I think something miracle happened, like Lord, economic crisis aa gaya. Hopefully they are now slightly coming to this thing. So here also the relationship are again in a very nuanced manner. You understood Sri Lanka problem? Okay, we'll take questions here. We'll take only major questions, 3 to 4 questions. Anything on Sri Lanka? Yeah, any questions? No, okay, huh.
So in terms of Sri Lanka, are there any military options to just conquer the country? Because if we have Sri Lanka as an appendage, let's just say an extension of India, a part of India, that pretty much secures all the Indian Ocean for us, pretty much. So is there a possibility of that in the future, or?
We, as a military capability, we do have this. Capturing Sri Lanka is not a very big deal. But politically and diplomatically, it will not be a proper good option, because in the eyes of the world, we will be taken as a conqueror. And so far, Sri Lanka has not got into any military alliance so far, that if at all India attacks, then the Americans are going to come or the Chinese are going to come. They do not have any security military alliance. So they are not going to, no, none of these countries are going to come in their support. But as and when the things are developing out here, you can't rule out the Chinese coming in a very big way to support this thing. They will not put their troops on ground, but they will provide all other support. So the degree of difficulty for us to, we can go land, to consolidate. Today, attacking a country is not an issue. Issue is capturing and holding on to that.
Governing.
So that will be very difficult, and we'll have to see at what cost we're supposed to do. Okay.
So if we were to take that option, let's just say as a diplomat tomorrow, if I was to plan or integration of Sri Lanka at some point, I will go with the economic route firstly. Let's just say make them dependent on us economically, and then in short, let's just say we have a lot of good technical infrastructure. Make them dependent on us, and in a way, when the Sri Lankans are pretty much anyway very sort of a European Union kind of situation.
What you are suggesting is that is every country's venture when they want to basically influence another country. Okay, you first move economically. Okay, make them dependent. What the Chinese are doing? Chinese are what their major Chinese influence operations. That's called influence operations. Okay, you move into economically, get them dependent, right? And then move politically, start influencing political issues. Right, and you don't have to capture them on territory, but then you influence decision-making process in the country. This is one way of influencing. There's a full-fledged something called influence operations, right, in diplomatic world. We are doing it, but so are many countries doing it to Sri Lanka. वो Chinese कर रहे हैं, Americans कर रहे हैं. Americans may be bonami to us, but their interests all over the world.
But we have a logistical advantage, obviously.
इतना भी नहीं है जितना लॉजिस्टिक एडवांटेज वो है इन द सेंस it's a small country
and we have significant interest in this. Let's just say South China Sea is to China, Sri Lanka is to us.
Yeah, but you see Sri Lanka has been an independent sovereign country for a pretty long time. South China Sea, there is no this thing, it is all it's a dilution. Okay, so we can't put the same thing, but as an option, military option, it's not a favorable option. We should, non-military option is a better option. Yeah.
Hello sir, this is Sachin Bhardwaj. Sir, my question is regarding, sir, how to deal with China problem in Sri Lanka more pragmatically?
That's a good question. In fact, already we have moved in that if the Chinese are making a port in Hambantota, we told the Sri Lankans that you just can't give all the rights to one country. Okay, you have your advantage. They got a deep sea port, right, where large amount of ships can flock in at any point of time. So we have been able to achieve that very successfully by telling the Sri Lankans that we also need some share in that particular deep sea port, and we are investing quite a lot through Adani ports to build up a port adjacent to the Hambantota thing. That's one. Second issue is that the Chinese have got this thing of extending soft credit, okay, or debts, I mean soft credit to the country. So we have gone and said, listen, if Chinese are giving you this, we'll give you at this rate. That's internal. Okay, you take it from us. We have got good financial systems and guaranteed security. We'll be able to give you better, whatever the Chinese are. So on the financing we are working on. On the cultural side, our tourism has expanded to quite this thing. We have in last about 5 years adopted at least 3 cities as sister cities in Sri Lanka, okay, which are very culturally affiliated. We are also opening up, I think, visa-free visits to Sri Lanka. It's already opened. Sri Lanka has already opened for us. So diplomatically, and we are trying to facilitate lot of, movement of people from one country to another. Okay, because that is the only way you have more and more people coming, going, visiting. So tourists keep visiting more and more places. And Sri Lanka's majority of the earnings are from tourism. So we support that tourism by sending out tourists. We facilitate tourism. That's what things. In fact, government has done one thing that in the government service, there's something called the LTC, Leave Travel Concession, that you can go for this thing. Government pays for it. So if you go to Sri Lanka today, okay, the government allows you to go to a foreign country. Otherwise, it was only meant to India, within India. So like this, the government of India is also going on all fronts to counter the Chinese influence out there. And militarily, we are holding joint exercises with the Sri Lanka Navy. Okay, we have holding exercises with the Sri Lanka Navy also. Okay, we have not gone for the Air Force and Army so far. Yeah. Whatever the military exercise the Navy did, what is the name? Yeah.
Okay, due to our government's extended interaction with the Sri Lankan government, there have been political ripples in the Chennai circuit. And there have been, last year we had seen a few protests also. So would you please throw a light on that?
No, not much as far as things are concerned. You see, ripples to hamesha hota rehta hai, theek hai na? It's a question of how you view those ripples, right? So let's not get worried. We should be that we have had a historical relationship with Sri Lanka. We must reinforce through positive means of diplomacy, economic relationship and political relationship to keep this relationship intact and make it stronger. Okay? Other countries will always come up, as things are concerned. That's not an issue. Issue is that why the Chinese came, and why the Americans came, because of our policy of IPKF, we went in. So obviously we had a very bad relationship there. There's a vacuum. The same thing what he raised about Afghanistan also. Okay, if you are trusted neighbors and extended neighbors who are there, by wrong actions, political actions, you create an antagonist of those countries. Okay, obviously there will be vacuum. They will go to other countries. Getting my point? Yeah. Yeah, last question on Sri Lanka. Because you have many countries. Yeah.
Sir, I am Dhanji Pandey, and my question is, sir, what is the present status of minority rights, especially Tamils in Sri Lanka?
See, they have been given legal rights, as things are concerned. They are allowed to vote. Okay. They have been part of the community per se. But there are certain issues of representation as far as the parliament is concerned. Okay. Which is going to be resolved very soon, as far as things are concerned. But they have all other rights as a citizen, which is to be this thing. This 87 Accord actually was for why they didn't give full and gave limited autonomy. Now that so-called limited is now away, they have got most of the rights now. Yeah. No, I don't think. We should not. Yeah. Okay. So, having touched about Sri Lanka, general questions, keep it in mind, will come later. We'll come to next country, that is Myanmar. Okay. Now, again with Myanmar, you all know, it's a border country, okay, bordering our eastern belt quite a lot, our eastern borders, right? It's been hardly gone into democracy. It is, Myanmar has always remained mostly under military rule, under dictators' rule. And it's a country where the northern side is highly inaccessible because of huge forests. Okay, the Burmese forest, jungles, where no local, administration has got writ. The government has got very less writ on that. The entire writ in those areas, northern areas, are usually by the local rebels and the insurgent leaders who are there. There again the Chinese have infiltrated, they have also got that influence per se. We have a lot of ethnic similarities between the Myanmar people and the people in Nagaland and also in Manipur, right? And in the past, we had extremely good trade and relationship because it was part of the British India then. Okay, so all economy and road lines and railway lines also used to go in that particular area. But post-independence per se, dynamics have changed, where their form of governance have changed, we got into different forms of governance and so and so. And they were in a developing spree, we were in a developing spree. So somehow or the other, though we desire to have good influence out there, again in Myanmar, the local population has got very good, feelings for we as Indians as such. They don't have that much feeling for Chinese or any other people of the South Asia. They have good feelings for Indians per se. But then what are the dynamics that play as far as things are concerned is that as far as the security is concerned, right, the Chinese threat to the Brahmaputra Valley is through Myanmar is one of the best. If they come to the Himalayas, if they come straight, they'll get bogged down in the valleys. But if they come through Myanmar, have you seen that map there? No? You can recollect map of Myanmar, China, but if they come to the Myanmar, then there are plains of this thing where the Chinese can actually come to the Brahmaputra Valley. So this is one of our major concern for a land threat. Then drugs, misuse of free movement regime. You understand free movement regime? Each side up to 16 kilometers, people can move because they have the same ethnicity. This was the agreement way back in 50s that we did. But that has been actually working in not a very positive manner. Though it is working on socially and culturally, but from the point of view of political angle, drugs, etc., it's been creating devastation. The question will ask is, sir, why aren't you able to stop this? Yes, it's not that it's not a free. 16 kilometers doesn't mean that everybody can go from cross any point. No, there are checkpoints. You have to go through those particular checkpoints. But then the area is so vast, jungle, wooded and treacherous that people can actually slip through. We have security forces have limitations, etc. So because of this, in the past, Chinese took advantage of creating insurgency in the northeast. And ever since 50s, in fact, the insurgency started way back in 58. The first shot was fired in northeast in 1958. It was basically supported by the Chinese. And that support came through the rebels in then Burma, Burmese rebels, in Myanmar rebels. So our fight against rebels, against militants, against terrorism in northeast is greatly hampered and limited by this free movement issue. Because if you chase them, they will go away to that country. Okay. Now, they can run, but we can't run, because for us it will be crossing border, because that's not a line of control. Against Burma is not a line of control. It's not like Pakistan. It's an international border. If you cross, it's a violation, then the diplomacy comes into play. Okay. So these are the dynamics of our system as far as the Myanmar is concerned. Is projected threat to Indian maritime interest on its eastern sea flank. If you take Myanmar, right, and if you see the Bay of Bengal which is coming, That's what we spoke about, this isthmus. What's the name of the isthmus? Kra Isthmus. Kra Isthmus is just, below the tip of Myanmar, though it's in Thailand. So this is the place where if some base comes up, or forget about Kra Isthmus, there are ports where the Chinese were already established in Myanmar. That becomes a big threat to our maritime security in the Bay of Bengal, the eastern flank. You understanding the dynamics, the geography, or you're not? Or should I do it with a map and tell you? Understood? Are you understanding, no? Okay. So in all these things, we know that the Burmese can help the Chinese either to come on a land route or to come in to help them in a maritime threat. Our option is that the leadership in that particular thing should not be a single man who gets dictated from a China. So we as a policy started thinking that let's create democracy in that thing. The advantage of democracy is that no single man takes a call. And decision making is, definitely decided by the people. So we started supporting democracy. And the moment we started supporting democracy, we started becoming anti the regime there. Because that is a military junta there. We have actually done lots for Myanmar, frankly speaking. We have given them artillery guns, we have given them weapon systems, we have given them huge assistance, okay, so that they remain away from the Chinese front. But because of the geography, the linkage and the movement of a lot of Chinese that comes to Burma very easily because of the terrain, it's very difficult for us to counter that particular influence. But all if you are following the papers, only just about 10 days back, there was a huge gunfight which took place between the Chinese and the rebels. Because the Chinese want to now start dominating the rebel group. And the rebel group don't want that to happen. We are also doing a lot through our external intelligence agency to stop this. Because if you allow that influence to flow in from the top, go to Myanmar, and more amount of Chinese influence comes into the area, the same situation what you're talking about Sri Lanka, a base to launch an attack, will erupt in Myanmar. And this has been tried before, in the sense not this, the Japanese had tried during Second World War. There was a lot of bases where they could launch attacks against India those days. These routes are defined. You can come on this route, you can come on this route, and so on. So this is again a big challenge that we have to keep all these countries so that we ward off. Our biggest threat if China launches a land attack and a maritime attack simultaneously. This is long-term thing. So relationship with Myanmar is a very important thing. Real politics and not idealism. Okay, what you're talking about, real politics, pragmatism, again has to work here for relationship. Not that we are a democracy and that's a military regime, is a dictator, will not talk to them. Okay. So our policies all in says that when you want to have good relationship with this our neighbors per se, it has to be very, very pragmatic in nature. We cannot in this world move away from real politics. Again, there are issues out here as far as Myanmar is concerned, and I can't say that we have a healthy relationship. We killed 3 countries, third country, again with the third country also we are not having healthy relationship. Questions? Yeah, we'll ask.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Prashanjit. So my question is regarding the Rakhine state in Myanmar. So we know that there is a conflict and the Rohingyas are flooding into Indonesia and India. So my questions are twofold. First is, those Rohingyas who are staying in India, like in Delhi, what is the way forward with them? How to go about it? Like, should they be moved into Myanmar? And the second question is that how to stop the influxes from further Rohingyas coming into India?
See, not many Rohingyas actually have found place in India. Most of them have stayed in Bangladesh, right? We gave certain Rohingyas, allowed some Rohingyas to come in after having identified their credentials per se. But the charter of the UN says that they have to fall back to this thing. To this thing, the Myanmar government has agreed, but physically it is not started so far. The deportation process has already been cleared at the United Nations Refugee. UNHCR has been involved in deporting these Rohingyas per se, but the Rohingyas themselves are not willing to go. So it's become an issue as far as problems are concerned. And the Bangladesh said, we have no problems to keeping them if you give us funds. So this situation is playing, but the answer to a question in nutshell would be that obviously India is not getting too much involved into the Rohingya, neither we are putting any diplomatic issue on this issue, on the particular problem. The third is, the international agencies already seized this particular problem of deporting or sending back the Rohingyas back to the country, and which the Myanmaris have agreed. Okay, but on ground things are still not commenced. Okay, I don't recollect the amount what the UN has given out. Some millions of dollars have been earmarked for this.
Sir, Myanmar is a very important neighbor. It's responsible for the insurgency as well as drugs and a lot of things, even the Chinese footprint. So, sir, you mentioned realpolitik as a foreign policy. So, how would it look like, considering that Myanmar's political system has been a roller coaster in the past 20 years, and now there are multiple factions into play? So, it's a larger question: what should India adopt? Who to talk to, who not to talk to, and how would realpolitik actually look like?
See, in diplomacy there is something called pressure points. You must understand. Okay, every country has got its pressure points. When I had a diplomatic tenure, I remember the pressure point I was in a place called Iran, Tehran. So the pressure point in Iran was not the mullah, not the military, but an organization called IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Okay, which actually took a lot of time. When I say we, that is the embassy, Indian embassy, me and the ambassador worked together to get entry into these spots. You go to Saudi Arabia, the pressure points are the kingdom. In Burma, in Myanmar, the pressure point is the military. Okay, hence we have a lot of military to military engagements. Because in diplomacy, to be friends, you got to meet. You got my point? So you got to find ways and means to meet. It's not like, you can walk in. यहाँ पर तो तुम्हारे bureaucracy नहीं मिलते, ठीक है ना? Appointment लेके तुमको वो नहीं मिलते हैं तुमको, ठीक है ना? But when you meet, so one of the real politic measures is that engage with pressure points. And pressure points have to be identified in each country. And what are the pressure points? Is basically the people who call the shots in the country. So if you have to military has to accompany. And all other allied things which are there, that is a direct impact. Other things like culture, education, बंदों को भेज दिया, scholarship दे दिया, वो तो चलता रहता है हर जगह पे. Okay, but real मसाला जो है pressure point को आपको handle कर लेना. That actually is the real politic. Unless you are able to work on that, and it's always not that easy, let me tell you, to access to the real politic pressure points. It doesn't happen. Like we have problems with Pakistan. We have been saying that let's contact directly with the military, but as a policy we don't do it. So we do track 2. Okay, so where it's not possible to do track 2 sometimes. So these are always played simultaneously on these issues. So Myanmar, you got to handle military to military relationship. We have to see what is their problem. It's not that if I'm a military ruler, I'm this thing, I have everything honky-dory. No. Their major problem is the northern belt, northern Myanmar. And we can do a lot, and we have done plenty. In the past, last 30, 40 years, we have been doing quite a lot. Let me tell you this. Way back in 84, 85, we had sent a huge peace delegation, then on the initiative of Rajiv Gandhi, and I was part of the delegation. We went on foot, carrying some 300 mule loads of, things, mule, samajhte, khachar, okay, horses loads, and I was told to accompany that. So, this sort of actions do take place as far as things are concerned. Okay. Yeah.
In this military, in Myanmar right now, it's a conflict between the military and the rebels.
See, as long as people don't ask for our support, the military and rebels, they will keep fighting. But they do ask our support whenever there's operations. You see, whenever Burmese army carries out operation, it is always, they inform us. So what we do is, we specially make action to close the borders. Let's take border mein, there is a particular type of deployment. 100 posts are there. Okay, give you an example. If the operation takes place, we double it up. We make 200 posts. इसका हमको 7-10 दिन हमको operation लगेगा. Please don't allow anybody to move in. The first thing we help them that they should not run away to our country. That's number one. Second, we help them greatly in military communications. Okay, in jamming the rebels' communication systems. Okay.
So, but the point is, what if in the future rebels win? So, that will create animosity.
See, rebels have been trying to win since many. This is an ongoing fight. Whether you call it rebels here, you go to Mexico, there's a drug lords here. हर जगह पे तुम्हारा ये बंदे जो है unorganized army keep flourishing. It's a constant fight by the elected government through military to control these people, right? This will keep going on. अगर कल rebels जीत जाते हैं, they will topple the government here. तालिबान में क्या हुआ है? Essentially देखा जाए तो it's a rebel, ना?
Exactly. So my concern here is in military versus the rebels. Which one should India side with, or is it the military side?
No, we side normally with the military, not with the rebels. Obviously, yeah, we always side with the military. Yeah.
Sir, what about the democratic future of Myanmar?
Doesn't appear very bright. Otherwise, Aung San Suu Kyi, would have been released also by now. Okay? And there are reasons, because you see, any country which becomes more dictatorial, the first thing is that there is a lot of insecurity of the leadership. It's only through insecurity that they start becoming very, very dictatorial. And it's a very insecure government there.
So what UN is doing to democratize it?
UN is making efforts, but UN cannot intervene in political system directly. Okay, because charter is different. You cannot interfere. And even if to interfere, how will it interfere? Can it send a peacekeeping force? It's not a... tomorrow, if there is, like he raised this question, that there is a fight, strong fight between rebels and the military per se, and some truce has taken place. Now to ensure whether the truce works or not, if Myanmar requests that please send me some peacekeeping force, in that case the UN will get. And UN only goes an invitation. It doesn't go by own.
India has projects like one connecting to Asian countries. What does the future in such insecurity of these projects look like?
See, we have whatever projects that we are doing, that has got less amount of risk value because we are making roads firstly, right? So roads will continue. We are making bridges, right? Then we are making some humanitarian thing like schools and colleges, hospitals. We are making. They are unlikely to be, and these schools and hospitals are in the southern side. In the northern side, except for roads, bridges, and some few tunnels, we are not making anything else.
One such project is Kaladan multimodal project, and that is connecting to our Imphal.
That's a connectivity issue. That's what I tell you. Na? So most of the thing that we are doing is on connectivities. Okay, so that's a part of it. A road बना दिया, तोड़ देंगे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? ओके दिलाराम जो प्रोजेक्ट बना हुआ है उसको भी तालिबान वांटेड टू ब्रेक इट, हमने बोला तोड़ना है तोड़ दो, क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है, ठीक है ना, वो रिपेयर कर लेंगे बाद में तो रास्ते को कितना तोड़ोगे तुम बम बम लगाकर, 300-400 किलोमीटर 500 किलोमीटर रोड में 1 किलोमीटर बर्बाद कर देगा, 2 किलोमीटर बर्बाद कर देगा, ऐसे ही बारिश होता है तो भस जाता है, ठीक है ना, वो कर देंगे, उसमें क्या है अब. एंड इमेजिन दोस rebels trying to use so much of explosives, so it's not a very cost effective solution. We told the same to Taliban, तुमको चलाना कर दो यार, we spent nearly $500 million for that, ऐसा करना तो कर दो तुम, क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है, हम दोबारा बना देंगे, इंडिया इज़ नॉट ए पोर कंट्री, हम बना देंगे, उसमें कोई दोबारा नहीं वो तो वैसे चुप हो जाते हैं, दे विल कीप थ्रेटनिंग यू, मतलब तुम दिस इज माई पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस है, तोड़ना तोड़ दो, क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है, यू विल ओनली सफ़र. ओके या.
So one of the ethical values that should guide the conduct of any civil servant should be compassion. So will it be fine if we say that Rohingya should be deported to the country where they can be actually prosecuted and where they don't have any rights or future?
They will not be prosecuted, frankly speaking. If you look at the cultural issues of for that matter, they will not be prosecuted, right? Actually, you know, all these dictatorial countries के अंदर ना, people would work with a lot of egos. Some of these Rohingyas, you know, were not supporting at that point of time. It is that, you know, typical चीज़, उनको इसको lesson सिखाना है, ठीक है? But once they go back, there may be only 1/10 of the people out of that. They already been sorted out. और जो रोहिंग्या यहाँ पर आए हैं, वो सारे बाकी रोहिंग्या जिसको जेल में घुसाना, उसको ऑलरेडी जेल में घुसा दिया है. ये सब दूसरी चीज़ आए हैं जो छोड़ छाड़ का है, out of torture or something. They will be kept as far as things are concerned. There won't be a problem. Yeah. Okay. So we go ahead with from Myanmar, then we'll move to another country called, which is very close to, it's called Nepal. It's very dear. How many people are going to Nepal? How many people are Northeast here? You don't look like from Northeast, no. You've been to Northeast. You belong to which place? Which place in Manipur? Kaching. Okay. And you? तुम दिल्ली वाले हो, but you've been to घूमने गए थे Northeast. अच्छा, okay. How many people have visited Northeast? So many people. Why don't you organize a trip for all these people to Northeast? Huh? Yes or no? Yeah, there's a good way to think. Good. It's a wonderful, let me tell you, piece of territory that India has got. It's so beautiful. Nepal, again, another beautiful country. We had a very special relationship with Nepal, to the extent that when you signed the accord in 47, okay, we agreed for, Nepal agreed for allowing not 1,000, not 2,000, but 3,000, but 45,000 Gurkhas to serve in Indian Army. This is a very unique arrangement in the annals of any between two nations, that the citizens of one country are allowed to serve in the military of another country. You must read the Indo-Nepal Treaty of 1947-48. There are a lot of things you must, that is a basic thing you must read. From there everything flows out. How wonderful relationship we had with Nepal. Only Hindu nation, there is no problem of, you know, crossing borders, you know, transmigrations and everything, no issue, no visa issues, nothing. And you know, it was actually like an extended India. But then, could you handle this country properly, despite everything? Sometimes when I used to be in a diplomatic assignment, people ask that, why is it that, you know, India has not been able to have peace with neighbors? This is a question you also must always keep it in mind when you become administrators otherwise. It has got something to do with our democratic way of thinking, because you have too many people thinking too many things. And type of government is, all governments and democratic governments are actually insecure also governments. So some or the other, this beautiful nation went off hand, and Nepalese population 8 million strong in India. I think the biggest population of another country in India is the Nepalese. You can see them everywhere. from guards to hotels to restaurants and so on and so forth. But something happened that when too many, economic disparity took place in Nepal. There are a lot of people who went to UK. They earned good amount of money. The English army, British army, has got one full brigade of Gorkhas of 5,000 people. They put a lot of money back to home. People who are in India, especially in the army, 45,000 people we have, in Indian army today. Those people, money goes back, businesses goes back. So there was a big rift between people who went outside the country and people who remained within the country. The people who remain within the country, they say, yaar, we are taking care of the country, we are looking after the education, we are looking after the health, we are looking after culture, we are looking after everything for that. But ye log jo hai paisa bana rahe. So automatically there was a rich and poor divide which took place. And this was taken advantage by the Maoists. And this started way back in early 80s, 90s, let me tell you, 80s. This is where, India has failed. We have full-fledged embassy there, we have full-fledged diplomatic relations. We should have picked up this particular trend that there the poor people are getting away into different direction. We can't keep blaming everything which Chinese ne kar diya, wo kar diya, infrastructure kar, har cheez ke liye, Chinese cannot be the problem of all our diplomatic issues. जब भी देखो सर Chinese लोग आ गए, फलाने लोग आ गए, अरे क्यों आए वो? You allowed them, you created a space for them. Otherwise, a country like Nepal, how could they come? एक हिमालयन है, इस तरह पूरा फ्री बॉर्डर जहाँ तुम जा सकते हो. There is not a single vehicle in Nepal which is not made in India. You feel everything there, everything Indian culture. You allowed that to go out of hands. And the ruling kingdom was always with India because it's a Hindu king. He's a Hindu king. Yet it went away from hands. So what is it that is with us is that there is something called a Prachanda factor, which you must read, Prachanda factor. There is a complete subject on Prachanda factor, how the dynamics, political dynamics in Nepal moved away. This is what I am talking about to the Maoist thing. We should not have allowed this to fester. So today what has happened is that gap which has been created in the political this thing. You all remember the killings which took place of the Nepalese king, the princess, the assassination attempt which took place. All foreign forces were behind it because they wanted to absolutely eliminate our influence, not interference. Apparently, as a poor country, this country was paisa ho jayenge. So the Chinese have come in, they come in infrastructure, they come in so and so, they come in so and so, and so many things are there. We have now moved in a similar manner, trying to put in more money into the infrastructure. The entire southern Nepal, we had taken over the grid system, the electric grid system, we are doing it. Okay. The highways on the northern Nepal, and the tunneling are being done by the Chinese. So there's a clash of Indian and Chinese construction interests in many parts of Nepal. But it's a democratic country. You can't say कि नहीं तुम contract हमें ही दो सिर्फ. But of late, through Indian government's intervention, lot of public sector units have moved in. NTPC has moved in big way. Okay, GAIL has moved in big way. Okay, many public sector units have moved in through government initiatives, rounds of fundings, and started establishing a lot of. So we are trying to make inroads into Nepal in a very big way. My reading is that the Chinese influence is going to be minimized in times to come. Because in Nepal we can't afford to do this. And the present government is presently got its policy well as far as the Nepal is concerned. So this is, again, we have, there are statistics which I have not put for the sake of, because it will get too confused for that matter, how much of money you are giving, how much the population is giving. But as long as you understand the broad dynamics of a political and social relationship with another country, okay, you must, after this, with this broad dynamics, make your own notes and get into statistics. यहाँ पर छोड़ मत देना. Then only you will be able to develop this. Because if I bring in statistics, many larger issues are going to be lost. So as and when you are now understanding this, and remember always that in examinations and otherwise, don't get too much into statistics, especially for the interview. Especially for the interview. Nobody's get impressed कि sir उसकी population 1.5 billion है, 2 billion. No, nothing of the nature. वो तुमको देख लिया हमने written test में. We are wanting to see concepts here. Understanding of the factor, understanding so on. So here is a time you must clarify those concepts, whatever comes in your mind. Okay, shoot questions on Nepal. Since Nepal is not a very controversial, we will move to, what is this? Bhutan. Again, here the Chinese attempt to make road into Bhutan, Chinese keen on developing roads leading Bhutanese border, Nepalese problem, Bhutan additional vector, militant camps and so on. So now, what is our special relationship with Bhutan? Can somebody say Bhutan? Indian Army doesn't provide protection. Indian Army has got something called the Indian Military Training Team, IMTRAT, in a place called Ha in Bhutan. It provides facilities for joint patrolling, okay, in Bhutan along with the Bhutanese army, and remains in advisory capacity to the Bhutanese military for any contingencies. They are the official roles. It doesn't provide, we don't have any formal security pact that if somebody attacks Bhutan, that we're going to also go and save, we're going to send the military. No. But taking advantage of Bhutan's neutrality, the lot of insurgents from northern Assam, okay, whether it is Ulfa or the borders, they found lot of safe and hiding places in southern Bhutan. So somewhere, then Indian Army has to conduct operations to flush them out. Now, unique relations of Bhutan is such that, we pay almost 500 crores every year to Bhutan, okay, as a part of grant. It is not returnable, it's not a loan. This is official figure, 500 plus this thing. Other things are going on. Second, we provide a large amount of support to them for their infrastructure. That is construction of roads, construction of bridges, and construction of other things. They are given a very soft loan basis. Right. Third is we provide them huge amount of support in terms of education and health. Our doctors are there, our professors are there, we have established institutions. So we have developed a very good amount of cordiality as far as the relations with Bhutan is concerned. It's the only country, where we can be quite confident that yes, if you say so, then we'll work on it. But Chinese attempt to win away Bhutanese leadership has been going on for last almost 50, 60 years. Ever since post the Chinese attack on India in 62, they have been wanting that they must increase influence. I was posted there way back in 80s in this IMTRAT. So even those days also, I was there from 84 to 86. Even in those days also, the Chinese used to come and influence the Bhutanese leadership, the prince of the Bhutan those days. And we are hearing the same story now. So nothing has changed. So something happened called Doklam, which I'll tell you during the Chinese part of it. Okay, and also because we went and captured Sikkim. Sikkim was a protectorate. We made it a part of our state. On the similar premise what you're talking of, why shouldn't you not capture Sri Lanka? Because we found that Sikkim would have been a big jumping pad for any coming into the Siliguri corridor. So we had no option then to move into Sikkim. You wouldn't have heard of it, I think. You heard of it? No? Achha. Okay. There are certain things which we remained, kept in low profile. Okay. So once we did that, the Chinese were absolutely in a different state of mind. So they say, now we have to take Bhutan. So we have to actually work, in a very, very aggressive manner to keep Bhutan with us. And I think we succeeded in the last 30, 40 years to keep Bhutan with us. That's not a big problem. Because that's a very dangerous. So when Bhutan is not coming to our hands, and then they started Doklam. And Doklam is basically on the border of the Bhutan in India. With the premise, and in the process, the Chinese have developed a lot of roads, communications in Tibet, and they're coming closer. In nutshell, when you understand the dynamics of that particular northeast border per se, with Bhutan, northeast and so on, so and the Himalayas which is there, and the Chinese having, and Chinese trying to finger is nothing but, I told you Chinese cannot be called an enemy, but obviously it's not a friend. So they're time again trying to needle you with all these things that is happening. So Bhutan plays a very major role in our balancing the relationship between India and China. And it has always provided us support in the past when you wanted to carry out anti-militancy operations, or when you wanted to carry out any actions which are actually in direct contrast to the Chinese per se. Okay. Bhutanese has always been helping to us. And no wonder it is considered as one of the happiest countries of the world. How many people travel to Bhutan? You must. That's a wonderful country. It's not very far, let me tell you. You must visit this thing, and you get one of the finest trouts, golden trouts in the world. From the Hafung River, when it comes, okay, you can literally fish with license certain amount of golden trouts and enjoy the wonderful place to stay. Just break out. Even during our preparation also here, 2-3 दिन निकाल के Bhutan घूम जाओ. I'm sure you'll come back more wise. Okay. So, coming back to this thing. Okay, questions on Bhutan. थक गए मेरे ख्याल से. So anything to be discussed has to be controversial. Okay, good. So we move to Bangladesh. It's controversial, not controversial. Okay, you read, I'll not explain, but by the question, if I ask any questions on Bangladesh, we'll tackle. Yeah.
So the question is on a different level. Matlab, there is the Northeast where we have in the past 8-9 years there's a lot of political consensus regarding development of Northeast. And there is something called the Sylhet corridor, which we still haven't been able to get through, despite our very good ties with Bangladesh in the last 10-12 years. So any reasons why we haven't been able to get through that Sylhet corridor? That's specific.
Which Sylhet corridor?
Sylhet corridor.
Sylhet corridor, okay. You see, once we liberated Bangladesh in 71, we took it for granted that this country is now going to remain with us for all times to come. Because हमने उनको जन्म दिया है. That motherly attitude and brotherly attitude and fatherly attitude. Little realizing that we forgot the history very soon. That this was East Pakistan. नाम बदल लिया, नए political system आ गया, doesn't mean that उसकी interest ही खत्म हो जाएगा. If they could administer that country, remaining from West Pakistan, they could easily put influence operations here to make India difficult. Yes or no? And before you realize, Mujibur Rahman was assassinated. Our biggest fulcrum. So ISI अभी का नहीं है, तब से start हो गया है anti-India thing. And after post that, all political leaders, okay, through rotation or something of nature, have been actually been put across there through massive interference of the ISI. We fell short in handling that, though we went there. We realized immediately after, by early 80s, by when Rajiv Gandhi came, that yes, we need to move aggressively in Bangladesh. But then the foster of the seeds of turmoil and violence in Bangladesh politics was immediately put by the Pakistani ISI after independence, after their independence in 71. We are in glory, देश को जन्म दिया, सब कुछ किया, ठीक है ना, हमारे अगेंस्ट में जाएंगे नहीं, नहीं. So when it became a cycle of people, of pro-Pakistani and so on, so we started putting a lot of money, a lot of these things, so on, so. Well, Bangladesh is not difficult to handle as far as things are concerned, it's under control. But then it has got a lot of political and strategic significance. The Chinese wants to come because there's a wonderful docking place. The Dhaka, the Chittagong ports is got almost similar facilities like what is available in Hambantota. But we put tremendous amount of pressure in Bangladesh not to allow the Chinese to dock in at Chittagong. It was a big success, diplomatic success for us. We applied a lot of pressure on Bangladesh not to accept Chinese military equipment, except which are not very lethal. Air Force, we put a foot down. To the extent that sometime in 90s, something, we threatened Bangladesh that if you go, then we'll attack you. So that way we've been able to prevent Bangladeshis from getting critical military equipment, which is got this thing, that is no aircrafts and no big tanks, etc. They can bring few artillery guns or something, and that's okay. We've been able to put pressure on Bangladesh that we will stop your water through Faraka if you don't behave. We have put sufficient amount of diplomatic and political pressure on in Bangladesh to win them away from both the ISI and the Chinese influence. Then when the terrorism took shape in Kashmir in a big manner in the early part of 90s, there are a lot of modules which came up with Chinese, with ISI and Bangladesh to foster problems in the northeast. Again, we have to work with our counterintelligence agency to stop that. We have to employ special guys in our Indian embassies, okay, to ensure that all these things are taken care of. A lot of work takes place behind the scene, by the way. If you join the government, you'll get to know what it is like. What you get to know is just on the surface. But huge amount of work, like your concerns are equally been addressed by our people way back 30, 40 years. People are working. But when you deal with countries, when you deal with on diplomatic level, okay, everything doesn't go the way you want it. Your way cannot be the highway because it's a different country. अपने फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर में नहीं होता है. मोदी को सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट बोलता है, ममता बोलता है मैं नहीं करूँगा, तब करोगे क्या? ये फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर है ना. Okay, so the dynamics of this has to be understood when you are handling with countries as such. क्यों नहीं कर रहा है, फलान नहीं कर रहा है, हमारे सारे बेकार हैं लोग. नहीं, the work is difficult. You must understand this. Work is difficult. Since I had some diplomatic experience, I can tell you this. We have worked with so many countries. I have personally worked in Middle East. So it, होता नहीं, मतलब that way जो हम सोच रहे कि हम कर देंगे करके, ठीक है ना? Can it be? I'm sure the day the Afghan embassy decided to withdraw from Delhi, it would have been a nightmare in MEA. A nightmare in MEA. How they couldn't anticipate this happening? Afghan embassy moving out from Delhi. So sometimes this happens on this issue. Okay, so with Bangladesh, our major issues are basically illegal migration, which to a quite extent has been now been controlled by bringing in fencing, border fencing, enhancing the presence of the BSF and patrollings, working close ties with the Bangladesh Rangers, okay, bringing out electrical surveillance, right, and trying to record each and every guy who is coming from Bangladesh through our data systems which has been provided. So to quite an extent we have been able to stop the infiltration. So but the illegal infiltration, because it's a poor country and people find ways and means to come through sea and come through so and so, we still have this particular problem in our country. Especially with West Bengal, who still feels they can get a lot of political mileage by getting in the Bangladesh immigrants. So these are internal dynamics, you can't help it. It's happened. Like earlier, they used to go to Northeast, because if they didn't go to Northeast, who is going to work in the tea gardens? The huge amount of labor requirement, tea gardens, ONGC, oil fields and all. Okay, the local population was not getting geared up for that. They're not as hardy, as hardworking as the Bangladeshis. So people prefer that they should work in the tea gardens. The Britishers brought them over a period of time. Now, things have been controlled in such a manner that to quite an extent our illegal migration is controlled, I would say not stopped. So that's not a very major issue. Our major issue remains is that how is the influence going to get handled as far as the Chinese are concerned? Because we can't afford, like we are working aggressively with Nepal and Bhutan, similarly we need to act aggressively with Bangladesh, not to allow or to increase the Chinese influence. Presence will be there, there is no doubt about it, you can't stop it. But influence, there is a difference between presence and influence. So that is a challenge as far as the Bangladesh is concerned. The second challenge that we need to have is on people-to-people contact. We need to have more people moving into Bangladesh, okay, having good cultural relationship, having good exchange programs with students of Bangladesh, okay. Otherwise, there is no reason why these people are celebrating so much when India lost the cricket match. So look, there's much use of few fake clippings, that's a different issue. But the fact is that we need to engage more culturally, diplomatically, education and health-wise, because these are our strengths today in India. We can extend this support. And already working on connectivity of the Sylhet corridor, as I mentioned to you. Okay, there's a lot of work which is going on, but unless there's a problem of assurance that these corridors are going to be safe, even if they enter through, Mizoram and the other side, okay, that assurance is not coming to us, because once it comes to Mizoram, it has to go through that corridor to Manipur and then get onto Myanmar. We ourselves are not very sure whether they're going to be safe or not. And very soon the Manipur crisis took place. Okay, Nagaland crisis continues to remain. Mizoram remains a hot-boiled thing. So we have also issues because the terrain is different out there. But it can be done with the last time when the Prime Minister came, the Bangladesh Prime Minister, she has promised. And I think it will go through, because once the economic sense starts prevailing more. So US analysts are trying to understand geopolitics, has to understand the fact that our connectivity through Bangladesh is going to be a major change factor, and this is what we need to do that. Okay. Border fencing was inadequate for quite some time, but you must know why it is inadequate. Because there are a lot of rivers and tributaries which keep flowing from India and Bangladesh. वहाँ पर तुम fencing नहीं कर पाओगे. वहाँ पर बेस वाले रात को पेट्रोलिंग करते हैं बोट में. Now, obviously, it will have leakages. So we have done to maximum extent border fencing in Bangladesh. It started way back in sometime in 2004, 2005, and now it's been completed to quite an extent. But there is still controlled migration, because there are certain villages which are in Bangladesh and they also come to India. शादी वादी सब उधर ही होता है. I have seen villages which are also in Bangladesh, also in India. आज घर में यहाँ पर डिनर खाते हैं, शाम को लंच उधर खाते हैं. Getting my point? So we in the Indian subcontinent, which was divided on a very artificial line by the Britishers, okay, has got a lot of internal issues, lot of problems. And that issues only we need to sort it out. उसके लिए अमेरिका नहीं आएगा सॉर्ट आउट करने के लिए, वो तो लगा के चले गए. Okay, anything on Bangladesh? Are you in time or are we running short? Vishal? Oh, okay.
Sir, so two questions. First is with respect to, hello?
Yeah.
So two questions. The first, as you said, that we are limited by our federal structure. So my question is that, is the TISTA agreement, can we see in near future? And because of the prolonged debate on this, are we not alienating the Bangladeshis because of not completion of TISTA agreement? The second question is that regarding the human rights issues that are faced by the Bengali Hindus over there, they are minorities. It does not come into the news, but still we find in local newspaper that there are some conflicts and atrocities done. So is the Indian government raising these issues with respect to the atrocities faced by the Hindu minorities?
Firstly, on the second question, it's not a very major issue because what has come out in the papers must be some isolated incident, but by and large, the Hindu community is very well entrenched there because most of them are business communities. Okay, and whatever you get little atrocities, something, it has come out mostly because of business rivalries. But they enjoy a very good relationship and they've been there for hundreds of years. It's not that they've gone now. So on that basis of minority insecurity is not very high in Bangladesh as far as I am concerned. The second issue of implementation of TISTA agreement is that it actually goes as per the government. Anytime there's a pro-India government there, okay, they said this thing. The moment you find another government comes, they put a block into it. But if you actually go by the benefits of TISTA agreement, there is more benefit to Bangladesh than to India. So we've been harping that you have to consider the larger issues of it. He said, we said that if we want, we can stop water to your this thing at Faraka. But we don't do this. We don't even do it to Pakistan also. We are not that country that will start becoming so be-minded that will not give you water. But TISTA is a political issue because it deals with electorate and constituencies of those particular leaders in Bangladesh. Okay, I wish some wisdom prevails in them to implement TISTA. Okay, next. Oh, okay. So they want a break. Let's have a break for about 10 minutes and then come back here. Okay, right. We want to loosen the bladders. Okay, good. Chalo, let's now, it's 3:30 now. Okay, doesn't matter. We started at what time? We've taken a lot of time. You guys are too keen, I find. Right, okay, let's have a break for 10 minutes, we'll restart, right? Okay, thank you. 10-15 minutes, okay. Okay, I'll straight away come to something of China. Okay, all I want to tell you is that we are actually staying in a nuclear neighborhood. Now bring in the nuclear dimensions to it. We have Pakistan, we have China. Okay, other countries obviously are there, but definitely we have US nuclear weapons here in Korea deployed. We have, of course, Israelis and Russia. So all these nuclear ranges are very, very close to India as far as things are concerned. So it's not that we are living in a very, very safe world. But having said this, I still say China, the Great Wall of China. Okay, come to this place of see this map properly. Okay, we have a complete length of 4,000 kilometers, not a very small thing. 4,000 kilometers of LAC. Now it starts from here. The Siachen Glacier moves down and completely goes. And the divisions are given. Western sector 2,000 and eastern sector is about 1,300. But total length with China, along with the glacier part of it, in glacier the LAC gets changed and it is called AGPL, actual ground position line. Okay, it's not, sometimes you get it in your, of course you've done your prelims already, but it comes in your, what do you call, the multiple may. In glacier it is called AGPL and not LAC, actual ground position line, right? So Pakistan illegally, do you know about this? Pakistan illegally ceding 5,000 square kilometers? Okay, way back. And Pakistan occupied Kashmir to China in somewhere 1963. So essentially, what you see, the so-called Kashmir is not that what it is. इसका यहाँ पर आधा चला गया, इधर आधा चला गया. Okay, some has been ceded to China, some this POK is there. But we have to defend whatever is balanced. And we got the Chinese thing. But till Chinese threat was not actually, 62 आ गया फिर हम भूल गए. But now we are actually finding this real. मोदी झुलाने के बाद भी जो है ना, वो Chinese वालों ने उसके गलवान पे वो कर दिया. That means the intentions are very clear. So we should now deduce that Chinese is actually a threat now. Okay. Doklam is something, I will tell you, this is the Bhutan and this is India. So this is the area of the Doklam. Now if they cut this and they come and occupy this, okay, the Bhutanese is here, they will straightway get an access as far as the Siliguri corridor is concerned. So this is why it is very sensitive, Doklam. Now Galwan is, I haven't got a map for it, but when it took place in 2020, the Galwan crisis, is essentially to come and dominate the lake, which is this lake, Pangongsa Lake, okay, by which they can have a clear access. They are also making a sideway bridge by which they will to dominate. Now why are they doing it is that they want an access to Ladakh. And the aim is that if they can get Ladakh, then they will be able to threaten Kashmir Valley. And then in long term, in collusion with the Pakistanis, okay, they should be able to take the whole of Kashmir. So Kashmir threat from both a collusive angle of Pakistan and China, okay, is a real threat. It's no longer an imaginary threat. So hence, we got to work on it. A string of pearls, what is it? I've told you. This Gwadar, okay. Then you have the Hambantota, Hyangi, and so on, so Uri. This is the string which is being worked on as far as the Chinese are concerned. This is how the one belt, one road is also working place. We know about the BRI functions, okay. So this is how the Chinese want to basically have influence in other countries through their BRI initiatives, right? Now, we have been having a lot of confrontation with as far as the BRI is concerned. Here, through the Pakistan thing is not shown, but the issue is that they already got Colombo in their plan. They already got the South Asian things in their plan. That means at some time, like somebody was telling that, they will always come to Colombo and start their process of the BRI per se. Okay. Threat from Pakistan is, you all aware of the background, but what is important that it is a nuclear armed today. It's a nuclear armed, and Pakistan's stated arm is to wrest, this is from the official thing, wrest Kashmir from India through proxy war and political and diplomatic offensive. If a country has stated this in official thing, do you think we should be quiet? So when you answer questions to 327, 370 or a repeal of 35, etc., okay, this should be something which should be on the back of mind. If a country sitting next door has got this official statement, we need to secure ourselves and contain Indian collusion in China to prevent India from emerging as a South Asian power. This is actually, initially we are basically appreciating this, but this is actually a reality on the ground. That these two adversaries of ours do not want to become a major South Asian power. Threat from Pakistan, this is a little more military, but the fact lies is that it's a, they have worked in a such beautiful manner. You see the ISI linkages all over, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and so on and so forth. So at one stage you have the military, you have one stage you have the collusion, you have one stage the proxy war taking place, and another stage you have the ISI functioning all over around us. And then I just showed you the string of pearls. So the threat is actually on ground. When you come to proxy war, okay, this is all been defined. And this has been exemplified in earlier, in all these commissions that has taken place, right from 47, 48, 65, everywhere. The failure of Indian state to socially integrate J&K being exploited by Pak Army ISI, hence internal security challenge with external linkage. If this be the thought process, then we have to link our internal security with external linkage per se. And at the end of it, we have to engage with the army. We still not decided to engage with Pakistan army. The army dictates the country's Kashmir and nuclear policies and will decide whether the present peace process will be allowed to go forward or not, whether you like it. So last but not the least, as far as Pakistan is concerned, is I'm not talking as a military man, but on ground. So when you analyze Pakistan, there could be no analysis which will be complete without understanding the Pak's military mind, their ventures, their strengths, their vulnerabilities, and their decision-making process. It is so different than our country, okay, which we are just next door. We have a well-structured decision-making process, but there, every decision-making process is actually dictated by the armed forces, by the army especially. I quickly rush through China and Pakistan because since you already got the basics part of it. But should you have any questions before I get into the next topic of G20, we can tackle that. Anything that is lurking in your mind? Yeah.
There's always a cycle playing out. Even if we look at the recent Maldives election outcome, they've asked to withdraw the forces. Then we have seen same thing playing out in Sri Lanka as well, that we have provided the humanitarian aid and have helped them with credit. But ultimately, when it comes to reaping benefit, China is the one who is successfully doing it. So we see this cycle playing out with most of Indian neighbors. So do you think so political pundits, they call it as diplomatic innocence. So somehow India, considering the culture, democratic culture and the values, because of which they are not able to reap the benefit as per the real politic. So again, the question comes is our diplomacy active diplomacy? We see that, okay, it is said that we have moved from passive diplomacy to active diplomacy or engaged diplomacy. Do you think that is in line, or there is something which is changing on ground and which
Yeah, I
needs
got a
to
point. I got a question. Yeah. You see, we follow a very balanced policy. Let me share with you. We don't follow a reactive policy. Many countries are very reactive in nature. Something happened, okay, including US also becomes sometimes very reactive on this particular issue. But we have a little amount of political resilience to analyze a particular situation, unless, of course, it was an immediate retaliation like the surgical strike that took place consequent to this thing. But prior to that, if we did not react immediately or did not make very bold, did not make statement, including after 9/11 also, it's not that we didn't do anything. It's not a political silence or a diplomatic silence or something. No, there are a lot of actions which took place because the way to handle Pakistan at that point of time, post 9/11, is that we had to go through the international community, through getting the legality done up, getting intelligence work done up. Post that, we found that we have limitations, so we got into agreement with the Americans for sharing of intelligence and information. Okay, we got into agreement with Israel. Post that, our actions and joint coordination with Israel was one of the highest. We went in for weapon systems, wherein our surveillance systems or weapon systems was high in order. So many things takes place internally to strengthen our own capability when the things happens. And many things, many times they are not given out open because they are all intelligence driven. But, and we have been able to, you see, when we have to analyze it from the fact that when a neighboring country wants to put a proxy war, he, without launching a war, he does everything. And we have survived. And the survival has not come with easy cost, let me tell you. You know the casualties that has taken place in Kashmir, you know the casualties that have taken place elsewhere. Okay, we have lost almost 2 prime ministers. Okay, through this so-called, have been assassinated. Right? So it's not a very easy, it's not easy going as far things are concerned. So we do a lot of work as far things are concerned. And definitely, if you ask me what we act at every angle, and one of our major things that we do at the political diplomatic angle is getting the legality straight. Otherwise, no way the Pakistanis would have come under the FATF. There is no way, okay, there have been total isolation. Today, if you see, there is total isolation of Pakistan in all fields. And FATF, one is a big success, putting them, all their people under the UN, designated this thing. This is, again, we have to tie with the US. And US put up this thing, that, well, and also Soviet Union that time. Because Russia will never, China will never do it, not Soviet and Russia. So all these countries who are part of the UNSC, we have to work with them to designate these terrorists as part of the UN designated terrorists. The movement has been frozen, the bank balance has been frozen. Okay, now of course, what you're hearing, okay, we are trying to do some other means, right? I'm sure the papers are carrying the stories. Okay. So we are doing a lot of things as an EA. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived as a democracy, let me tell you. Running a democracy is not a small task. You must understand this. And 1.4 billion democracy. Okay. Yeah.
Sir, as far as our relations are concerned with China, why can't we use our historical and religious connect of Buddhism with China to develop our relations? And if not so, then what should be our way forward to develop our diplomatic relations?
One of the biggest challenges we have in diplomacy or in country-to-country relation is idealism. Okay, now if countries' idealism is different, what can you do? They have a strong political idealism. Like Pakistan has got a strong religious idealism. Okay, so the psyche has to be actually handled at that point of time. Got my point? And Chinese idealism of political idealism is expansionism, right? They also want to become a very powerful country, right? Now, you have to understand the idealism of the country. We are not an expanding country. We want that our country to be empowered. We want to be safe. We want to be one of the good countries. It's not that we want to starve or something. But our idealism are different. We are built upon democratic values. Okay, those countries don't believe in the democratic values. They think, no, for them progress is the important thing, not the system. How does it matter? We may tomorrow kill, a million people through A, B, C, D, but as long as it gives us power in this world, we shall do it. And their political idealism has to follow. Now, who is going to tackle the religious idealism in Pakistan, you tell me? Can you contest a fellow who thinking, if you become a jihad, tum jaake wahan par, what will you do in heaven? All that thing is not, we'll not discuss in this forum. But the fact is that we have challenges against idealism, number one. Number two, to find pragmatic ways as far as things are concerned, our diplomatic reach has to be very, very practical and strong in nature. And we have limitations in this, like we do not have the right amount of diplomats. Number, firstly. In fact, we will be trying to increase the number of IFS people very soon. Very soon, it's already through that, okay, the number of IFS vacancies are going to enhance substantially, right? So there are a lot of things which are going on. Okay, we're taking help with other countries. See, all of us know getting with US as bedfellows is a strange bedfellows. But our choice nahi hai to going with the United States. We have to go. Okay, so this is how we have to work, because no country today can actually do anything on its own. Even United States of America, it requires help of other countries. Okay. Yeah.
Sir, so what do you think of, sir, so what is the future of India-China relations? as far as you think of?
Future is we have to guard ourselves. You see, point here is that we have to make ourselves strengthened. Otherwise they'll take advantage of us. Our choice, you have to. All this yesterday paper you read, Defense Acquisition Council has cleared how much of acquisition? 11 lakh crores. 11 lakh crores of purchase of equipment you are doing. Have you ever heard in Indian democracy? 11 lakh crores yesterday the DSC has cleared. And is all with the Chinese in view, not with Pakistan. Yeah.
So, since you served in Kashmir, you have a first-hand experience, and we're fortunate to know that. So, my question is regarding the overground workers in Kashmir. So, has the status of overground workers come down, and the steps taken by both the political as well as the army regarding controlling
Quite a
overground?
lot. Post 370, quite a lot. सबको अंदर कर दिया, बोले सब ठीक है ना, sort out हो गया सब. That is one of the major reasons, why things are going on. And I mean, to quite an extent, they have been tamed. We call them sympathizers. What do you call that? Overground workers. Yeah. Chalo, next. Okay. If there are no questions on this is a very big topic, as I told you. We will have a lot of questions, we'll have a lot of these things. Okay. Maybe subsequent sessions will work on that as far as things are concerned. Okay. Because each country itself will take away 2 hours, 3 hours or something when you want to discuss in detail. So here we just touched upon the brief points, but my request is take this, I have tried to put in the slide only fundamental points, which will be easier for you to remember. Okay, when you asked about something about this thing, as I told you, first answer fundamental things. So build up upon these fundamental points, and then subsequently you build up other things which are of contemporary nature which is started. Okay. So with this we end the regional dynamic series, and then we move on to the G20. Okay.